What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Waters. Welcome to No Life to Metal. Today I thought I would discuss my Mortification collection. Had many requests for it, most recently by a friend named Darren Hildebrandt, and also many times by my good friend Sherry Ross, who unfortunately succumbed to cancer this year and passed away. So I remember her as I'm doing this, and this video is for you, Sherry. And she was Ultimatum's manager for many years, and she was also Mortification's manager for many years. And yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and get right into this because there's a lot to show and not a lot of time to show it all. So we're going to start with the Light Force, which was the band that Mortification came out of. I'm not going to get into their whole discography. They have demos and self-released albums. This is was their basically last full-length album that was recorded for Pure Metal Records in 1989. The sound here is it's just straightforward heavy metal with a punky edge to it, kind of like that early Iron Maiden with Paul Di'Anno sound, heavily inspired by the likes of Manowar and Iron Maiden, early Iron Maiden, of course. And I really like this album. I was a fan of this band when it came out. Bought this when it was brand new, 1989. That's my vinyl copy. I have a CD copy around here somewhere. Oh, right here. I got stuff everywhere because there's so much stuff here. Steve Rowe's first tour through the U.S. where he came through the Southwest here. I had him sign this, and you can see his autograph there. Anyhow, in 1990, or actually at the end of '89, the band decided they wanted to go for a thrashier sound. They were inspired by the whole German thrash scene, the likes of Destruction, Creator, Sodom, and then bands like Sepultura, Death, and Possessed. So they were kind of going for that early thrash meets death metal sound, and they recorded this demo, Break the Curse. And this was still released under the Light Force name, and it did have the classic power trio, which was the first time they were a power trio, I believe. And Steve Rowe being the main person here, Cameron Hall on guitar, and Jason Sherlock on drums. Of course, Jason and Steve would go on to play a huge part in Mortification. Steve Rowe would become, basically the Lemmy of Mortification, and the band name would continue under years, decades and decades with Steve's at the helm. So that demo right there got them their very first record contract in the United States under the Mortification name, under Intense Records. However, many people consider that to be their first album. Really wasn't. It was released later on under the Mortification name called Break the Curse 1990. This is actually a 1994 release, which is the reason the album is actually called Break the Curse 1990, because this is full of those early Break the Curse demos. It does have one bonus track called Butcher Mutilation. Was recorded in 1993 for a Nuclear Blast death metal compilation. This is actually the original pressing. If you look real closely at the logo on the bottom, you can read that they spelled the Nuclear Blast wrong. Nuclear Blast. There's an M in there. Also, that was funny, but several versions of that in my collection. That's the original Nuclear Blast. This is the Steve Rowe Productions pressing from many years later. Has updated photos and liner notes, the same track listing minus Butcher Mutilation. And then the 2010 20th anniversary gold edition on Rocks Productions, and this contains the full album, a slew of bonus tracks, and then a DVD of their entire 1990 concert, the first concert they did as a name Mortification, playing all thrash death metal. The original pressing also came with this guitar pick, the gold Steve Rowe guitar pick. So yeah, the bonus tracks on here has the entire Noah Sat Down EP on here, has a Destruction from 1987, which is an early Light Force song. It kind of has that thrashy sound, so you can kind of hear they were inspired by that early on. And then Time Crusaders, which is a Mortification Studios track that was only released on an obscure Rowe Productions compilation called I don't know, Australian Metal or something like that. Anyhow, the first official album was Mortification. 1991, Intense Records. This is the original pressing. Apparently, some people consider this offensive, so it was released with this cover as well for the Christian market, Christian bookstores. Got this black version with the green Mortification logo. Other places got the original cover with the Lake of Fire, drawn by, actually both of these were drawn by drummer Jason Sherlock. And Jason's drumming played a huge part in this band's early sound, along with Mortification, who was one of the main songwriters. and their vocalist. His vocal style at the time was, you know, death, growls, and very guttural, very deep, and exactly what you expect for early 90s death metal, which is what this was. Here's another pressing. This is the Soundmass pressing from a few years ago. This is a digipack version. And, oh, here's Break the Curse on vinyl. This is the 25th anniversary pressing. This is on silver vinyl. Here's the test pressing of that same one. You can see this is the inner sleeve. Another thing, I believe this is drawn by Jason Sherlock as well. Originally, it was much longer than this and had some pictures in there and was a poster for their Australian tour. And I created this for the insert. This is the Mortification with the original Lake of Fire picture on Soundmass, Australian record company. And like I said, I believe it's the only time it was ever released on vinyl. And I think this was released around 2014, if I'm not mistaken. Might have been 15, somewhere in that area. Okay, and then after that came their probably most well-known, their biggest album. Many people consider this to be a classic. This is Scrolls of the Megilloth. Scrolls of the Megilloth. And this album was released on Nuclear Blast. You can see right there the Nuclear Blast logo. And you can see it's spelled correctly this time. Great death metal album. The first album had more of a thrash meets death metal tone. This is just pure early 90s death metal. I consider it one of the best in the genre. And I liked all kinds of death metal back in the early 90s. And these guys were equally as good as any of them. So, Mortification, Scrolls of Megilloth. Here is the actual, this is a repressing from 2016. Yeah, 2016 on Soundmass, again from Australia. And let's see, here is the original CD pressing on Intense Records. I've had a lot of these, so. Here is a split promotional version from Nuclear Blast. So you got Mortification, Scrolls, and Megilloth. It was like an advanced pressing with an advanced pressing of Gorefest's False. You can kind of see it's a double album there. If I can get the other side open, that'd be cool. There you go. Here's the Gorefest side. Like I said, I thought they were as good as any band on Nuclear Blast back in the day, if not better than some of them. Let's see, what else we got here? This is the another Soundmass reissue. This is from 2005. This one has the Scrolls of Megilloth demos as a bonus track. Terminate Damnation, Lymphosarcoma, Necromanicide, and the song Scrolls of the Megilloth. And let's see, is that it? Yes, that's it. I need to make sure there's no other pressings here. No, okay. So that was 1992. That was Scrolls of the Megilloth, 1993. Same lineup. This is the Pulse Momentary Affliction. This is a pressing from this year on Soundmass. The original Nuclear Blast version had a different cover, which I'll show. I have a CD version. I'll show you that in a minute. But this is the only vinyl version I have. I never was able to get the Nuclear Blast version. And both this one and Scrolls of Megilloth were actually missing a song. It was just too big for one album. So I believe the original came with a 7-inch single. And then these re-releases, I'll show you that in a minute as well. But here is the original US Intense Records pressing with the original cover. This cover it looks like the original cover, but it's actually been redrawn and redone. Very well done. Both were done by Jason Sherlock, and they're very similar. But you can kind of see that it's been updated a little bit. And then the Nuclear Blast cover looked like this, both vinyl and CD and cassette. So I have one of both. And again, Nuclear Blast is spelled correctly on this one. And there is the original version of that as well. Here is a Nuclear Blast split digi. This contains all the songs from both albums, Scrolls of the Megilloth and Post Momentary Affliction together. As you can see, the cover is kind of whooshed together there. And it has a bunch of bonus tracks, including Butchered Mutilation, and live version of Time Crusaders and Brutal Warfare. That's cool, a little collectible thing. I've always liked that double split version. Let's see, is that it? I believe that's it for that particular one. However, here is the 10-inch single Again, has the kind of a split version going on between the two albums, and it has the songs that didn't make it onto the vinyl. So you've got Ancient Prophecy from Scrolls of Megilloth on here, and Overseer from Post-Momentary Affliction that didn't make it onto that one. So you can get both those songs as well as Time Crusaders and Butchered Mutilation on vinyl. So, and I believe that's the only time either one of those tracks has been released on vinyl. So Ancient Prophecy, Overseer, 10-inch single. That is also from Soundmass in Australia. Okay, what's next? Here's another, this is a little promo item from Nuclear Blast. Contains Mortification, let's see, Inflamed, Benediction, Gorefest, and Maccabee. And it's a clear vinyl promotional item. I think this is from 1993 or 94, somewhere in that area. 93. Alright, staying in the 1990s, early 1990s, this is their very first live album. This is Live Planetarium. This is also released on VHS tape, which I also have, and DVD, which I do have as well, but I'm only showing CDs and vinyl here today, and one cassette. Terrible 1990s graphics, but it is what it is. Lots of live photos on the inside. There's the CD. Yeah, it's a good live album. They do a cover of Black Snake by Bloodgood. I like it, except the solo is just, this is really live. This is not cleaned up. So you get a very butchered solo on Bloodgood. But otherwise, there's a lot of good stuff on here. There was an early version of Human Condition, which would make it onto the next album. And then, of course, Time Crusaders, which was, at this point, had not ever been released in any form. And it was released here live for the first time. And I believe this is 1994, maybe even the end of 93. Musketeers in the background. With that, Jason Sherlock left the band. He was interested in going into a heavier direction. He was interested in going even faster, and Steve Rowe was interested in going to a more other direction. So the two of them split. Jason Sherlock went off and did Horde and Paramecium and several other bands. Steve kept with Mortification, and they released this, which is the original release of Blood World. This is the Intense Records version, and this had, as far as I know, it had never been released on vinyl until recently. I have a copy coming in the mail. It's not here yet. I thought about waiting, but it's just one record. This is the original cover, and the logo had been changed as well. The sound changed as well. Steve Rowe was doing much less growling, more almost hardcore yelling, and even attempts at singing on here. There was still some growl vocals, but it was mixed up much more. There's also a few sort of shorter joke songs on here, which I guess they always did, because on the very first album you had God Rules and whatnot. So Monks of the High Lord was a highlight on this. Symbiosis, the title track. Blood World, also the Nuclear Blast version, which I still have here. Similar, very similar covers, with the exception of Nuclear Blast has the cover in the logo in white, which actually looks better to me, and has the original logo. Different photos as well on the back. The song listing is exactly the same order, just two different pressings, one from Germany, one from the USA. And as well, this is the a split promotional EP between Tourniquet and Mortification. It features songs from both bands and also has interviews with the bands as well. If you want to stop the frame and look at the track listing, there it is. Not much to it. There's no inner sleeve or anything. It's just a cover. Tourniquet and Mortification logos on there. So let's see. Yeah, I don't have the Blood World vinyl. So moving on. This is one of many. I don't know. I forgot to pull this out. I have a lot of different bootlegs of them, but this is just one I forgot to pull out. This is Australia, 1992. And the Best of Mortification. This is when at this point Mortification was in Europe. They were on Nuclear Blast. In the USA, they were on Intense. And Intense put this Best of release out, which features some of the songs from Break the Curse, and which had been released by this time. And just a bunch of different songs. Nothing on here that was previously unreleased, although it does say contains 2 songs previously unreleased in the US. Those 2 songs are both off of the Break the Curse demo. After that, the band, the members came and went. Steve Rowe continued touring. original members from that first album exist now, except for Steve Rowe. They released this, which was actually recorded here in the USA, hugely influenced by Sepultura in the sound, that kind of primitive sound, thus the name Primitive Rhythm Machine. The back cover, I believe, was drawn by a fan. Front cover was drawn by Troy Dunwire, who would do most of their covers from this point on. This is my first time meeting Steve Rowe on this tour. This is the original pressing on Intense. And my band Ultimatum opened up for them. I thought I had a side in this, but maybe not. Anyhow, I thought I did. I might have another version of a side somewhere around here. Anyhow, we opened up for them on this tour, and it was a blast. I mean, it was a huge crowd there. Mortification was great. Ultimatum was super tight. The band was ready. We were just pumped. The entire performance, Steve Rowe stood at the side of the stage and watched us. After the show, we cleaned our gear off, went to our merch table to sell, shirts and sign autographs and whatnot. And Steve Rowe stood in line with the rest of the crowd and came up to our table and said to us that he loved the performance, loved our sound, wanted to know if he could buy whatever merch we had left over after the people were done buying it, because he was going to take it for the rest of the tour for the rest of the U.S. tour. And I was like, great. And he did. He bought a ton of stuff from us, took it on tour and sold it, and eventually signed Ultimatum to his label. But that's getting ahead of the game here. Mortification, Primitive Rhythm Machine. Again, a change in sound. No more death metal at all. Now you've got more groove-based heavy metal, like Sepultura was doing at the time with like Chaos AD and whatnot. So very primitive recording as well. It's very raw. A lot of people thought it was bad. I don't personally think it's bad. I just think it's very raw and almost like a live sound to it. I always love the cover art on this one too. So is that the only version of that I have? Possibly. Oh, here's another version of Blood World. Metal Mind released most of Mortification's albums again a few years ago. Didn't pick them all up because, frankly, I already have multiple versions. Had to get this one, though, because it's got the studio version of Entering the Eternal Dawn, another song that was recorded specifically for a Nuclear Blast compilation, and it's a great song, which is, I believe this is the only thing it was officially released on. Yeah, this is a numbered copy, 2,000 copies, 476 of 2,000. Okay, keep it on because I still have a lot to go here. This is Modification. This is a Steve Rowe Mortification tribute album, which included a song that all the other band members from Mortification recorded. Steve Rowe had gone into hospital. Again, I'm getting ahead of the game a little bit, but this was to raise money for that. They do an old Light Force song, Mortification and Friends, Metal Missionary. And that is them, the guys in Mortification minus Steve Rowe, recording an old Light Force song for Steve Rowe, which is very cool. I really like this and enjoy this this compilation. It's different takes on the song. Some of them are very different. A lot of the stuff's not even metal, but it really works. Really love Roseanne Raiders. They wrote him a special song. Only song on here that's not a cover was called One Man, and that's Roseanne's Raiders, Australian hard rock band. 1990, excuse me, I'm losing my voice if you can't tell. 1996, this is the Nuclear Blast pressing of okay, let's try this one more time. Envision Evangeline. Again, I saw the band on this tour. They were spectacular. Ultimatum opened up for them again. Obviously have my copy signed. Great album. Again, a same change in sound. It's not thrash. It's more, I don't know, it's a little bit of mixture of everything. It's straightforward heavy metal. You kind of go back to the early Light Force sound, a bit of groove metal here and there. Then there's a song called Envision Evangeline in 8 parts, which is 20 minutes long, which you can tell is hugely inspired by what Manowar was doing around the same time with their epic long songs. Just all the manic bass. The song is basically the story of the gospel in one song. It's a very cool song. I love this album. Northern Storm, Piece of the Galaxy, Jehovah Nissi, excuse me, Buried in Obscurity, Chapel of Hope, Noah Was a Knower, which was kind of a short, punky, almost joke song, and Crusade for the King. And this, again, a whole new band here. But this particular band, this is Keith Bannister on drums, who was, I believe, a roadie for the band at the time, and who learned to play drums while helping Mortification out, became their drummer. Much more simplistic style drummer than Jason Sherlock, so it changed the sound a bit as well. And then you got Lincoln Bowen on guitar, who would remain with the band for quite a few years and also play in another band that Steve Rowe got involved with later on down the road. I also have an original Intense Records pressing of this and several others. I just decided just to pull out one because the covers are all identical. Really, the only difference is the CDs themselves have different artwork on them. That same year that those were released, Steve Rowe on his own label released a couple of EPs, both of them live. This is Live Without Fear, and Noah sat down, had a coffee while listening to the live Mortification EP. Come on, I gotta pause for a moment. Okay. Interruption with the grandson. Sorry about that. So, like I said, 2 live EPs. Basically, all the EPs are one full concert. The second one, which is Noah sat down listening to the live EP, is an interview with Steve Rowe and a live version of Envision Evangeline, Buried in Obscurity, and Noah Was a Knower. And then the Live Without Fear, which has much more, has Mephibosheth, Northern Storm, Primitive Rhythm Machine, New Beginnings from the demo, Grind Planetarium, Blood World, Majestic Infiltration of Order, which is God Rules, Jesus Grinds Satan's Head, JGSH as it was on the album, and Killing Evil. But yeah, I picked up both these at the show when he was touring for Envision Evangeline. I actually had the tour poster from that show as well as most of Mortification's tour posters. So, okay, around that time, Steve Rowe got really sick. He ended up getting lymphatic leukemia, I believe it was. One of the rarest kinds of leukemia. They basically gave him no hope. We prayed and prayed and prayed for him. The little church I was going to at the time, which was a very little church of maybe 30 or 40 people, we raised money for him. It was awesome. Just an awesome time of not for him it wasn't awesome, but it was just an awesome time of people coming together and praying for someone that didn't even know him, and raising money for a guy they didn't even know based on just, me asking him to. So, I mean, I'm always be eternally grateful to that church for doing that at the time. But eventually, Steve came out of it. He was on death's door many, many times, clinically dead 2 or 3 times, but he had finally survived and released this album. Excuse me. This is Triumph of Mercy. The front cover is a depiction of Steve Rowe being held in the wings of an angel, which is a dream he had while he had almost died one time, and the angel basically comforting him and telling him that he's not done yet. Again, Ultimatum opened up for them on this tour. Again, I had him sign the cover, so there you go. This is the Diamante Rowe Productions version. There's several different versions of this. I think I have 2 or 3 of them, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to show those ones. All right, moving on. I'm just going to start cranking through these because there's just so many left to go, and I know I'm probably into half an hour already. So my least favorite Mortification album. I don't dislike it, it's just not my favorite. Mortification, The Silver Cord is Severed, featuring that same, well, actually there's a different drummer now. Like I said, the lineup changed a lot, but you still have Lincoln Bone on guitar. You still have a lot of that groove-based metal. My favorite song on here is the first song, Metal Blessing. But other than that, this is the one I listen to the least. Like I said, don't dislike it, it's just not my favorite. Now this one is one of my favorites. I listen to this one all the time. This is Mortification, Hammer of God. This album is spectacular in my opinion. Again, getting back to the thrash metal roots, but again, also adding some groove metal in there. Still 100% metal, maybe a bit of a hardcore influence here and there. Never going metalcore though. This is from 1999. This album featured 10 new songs, plus all the demo tracks from this album. And that was on all the releases that these demo tracks were released on. And the demo tracks actually come off better than the album tracks. Their production on this album was fairly poor, but at the time I was just so excited that he was alive again and that he was writing music again. I just loved this album, and I still do. But if you listen to the demo tracks on this album, the actual demo tracks have a heavier, rawer sound than you get on there. So, favorite tracks on here, In the Woods, great song. A Pearl, great song. Lock Up the Night. Martyrs, which is a heavy song. And Metal Crusade. So there you go. Hammer of God. I don't know if I'm sure if these are in order anymore. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to keep going. Mortification. This is another live album. This is 10 Years Live Not Dead. Again, featuring Jason not Jason Sherlock, featuring, oh geez, what is his name? Now I'm getting all tongue-tied here. Here, I'll just show you the pictures. How's that? It's got that cool drawing of Steve Rowe in the spiritual, alive in the spiritual, and dead in life, how he was during that whole time. Lincoln Bowen on guitar, and there you can see his picture. And then Keith Bannister on drums right there. All right, moving on. This is Power, Pain, the 10 years. Power, Pain, and Passion, 10 years, 1990 to 2000. This is a best of compilation for Mortification. I don't think there was a whole lot of unreleased stuff on most of this, but there was some live tracks at the end that were unreleased here. And this again was on Rogue Productions. What do you got here? One of my favorites. I love this album. This is Erasing the Goblin. Originally they called it Impaling the Goblin. Apparently in some countries Impaling Goblin is some sort of sexual reference, so they changed it to Erasing the Goblin. Whatever. I pre-ordered this one, so my album came autographed from Australia by the entire band. You can see Steve Rowe's signature right there. And I do believe I have some of the more recent repressings of that one with a different cover. And Erasing the Goblin. This one contains the entire Live at Nordic Fest 2007 concert as bonus tracks. And this is the MCM Music version of Erasing the Goblin. Again, different cover. Similar inside. Does not have any bonus tracks. So there were several versions of this released. Live Humanitarium, a live album from Mortification. This is again featured. This is actually a later band. So you have there's Steve Rowe, Mick Jurlick, and Damian Piercy, who was with him for a short time on drums. And Mick Jurlick actually is in another band too. That's just a spectacular death metal band. Later on this year, Rock Productions will be releasing an album from them on vinyl for the first time. So let's see. Here's Relentless. This is the original pressing on Rock Productions. Again, I really like this album. I love the goofy artwork. I mean, it's a I don't know, some kind of spiritual tank with a big sword coming out of it and a buzzsaw. And then the repressing. This is a slightly modified artwork. It has Live Christmas Rock Night 2002 as bonus tracks. Jeff Lewis on guitars. I believe they had 2 guitar players on this album. Jeff Lewis and one other guitar player, if I'm not mistaken. Steve Rowe. Mick Jurlick, yeah. Mick Jurlick was the other guitar player in the band at the time. Alright, moving on. Sorry, this is taking a long time. This is Brain Cleaner. Again, kind of goofy art, obviously inspired by the likes of Harry Potter, whatnot. Great album, I really enjoy it. That one's been released a few times as well. Slightly modified artwork. Brain Cleaner, this is on Soundmass. This was a later pressing and includes Live at Revolution, Metal Fest, Mexico City 2004. Almost there, I promise. This is Mortification 20 Years. This is on Nuclear Blast. This is a collection of just old demos, re-recorded songs. They re-recorded some of the old stuff in 2009. Early concert live stuff. It's got an entire live concert from 1993 on the back, Live at Black Stump, which is also that concert I showed you earlier. Hi, baby. So anyhow, yeah, double album set, Nuclear Blast Records, just a compilation of live material, rarities, and that whatnot. And then we have Scribe. Well, actually, this is this one. The Evil Addiction Destroying Machine. As far as I know, this is the only pressing of this one. This is a digipack version of it. Same artwork. All these drawings that are talking about how kind of cheesy looking they are. They're done by Troy Dunmile. They're actually very well done for what they are. It's just the whole angel stepping on drugs and destroying them kind of thing. It's cheesy, but it's fun, and I kind of think it's cool. I liked it. So this album is a bit more of a hardcore vibe. I still like it a lot. Of course, it's it's Steve Rhodes, so it's metal. The Scribe of the Pentateuch album, which I had a hand in doing the layout on, which is very cool. Did not design the cover. The cover was designed by, I believe, a Disney artist, if I'm not mistaken. But I did do all the graphics on the back and all the layout on the inside and whatnot. So that album was later released with a new, different cover on Soundmass, and it has the entire Live at Easterfest 2013 on the as bonus tracks. And finally, their latest album, which probably their last album. This is from 2015. This is the Realm of the Skeletor. And again, this is a return to a more death metal sound for them. Great album, in my opinion. I think it's a really, really good album. And then here's the vinyl version, which by this time vinyl was popular, so it was released on vinyl and CD. So there you go. That is the entire Mortification collection as quickly as I could get through it. Everything I have, save for the Blood World and some other stuff, but all my vinyl and CDs. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a message for me below, and I will get back to you. Appreciate you all watching. God bless. Stay strong.